Welcome to my session on Innovating MicroProfile with Quarkus. A little shortly about myself. My name is Štefanko. I come from Czech Republic. I am a software engineer at Red Hat. I am a MicroProfile committer, and you can find me on Twitter under this handle Štefanko. So, what we are going to talk about today is is not intended in any way to harm MicroProfile or Jakarta EE, just saying this up front. It's just we at Red Hat have a little bit different ideas of how we want to push software technology forward. So I want to show you what we are doing. I will start with a quote of unnamed engineering, not this one, unnamed engineering VP at Red Hat. People who know. Innovate the S out of this. I told him when I read this that we should put this on a t-shirt. So this is the promise of my talk today. We are developers, most of us are. So what do you look for in a software when you are writing software applications? Or in the libraries or frameworks that you are using to write your applications? Is it API usability? If it's something hard to use, that it's probably not a good idea. Stability. You need to have that form of assurance that in the years to come, in some cases, tens of years to come, your application still runs, in some cases. Learning curve. How hard is it to learn new technology or the new API when it comes out? These are all important stuff. However, are they nowadays? When we moved from the traditional application traditional application server development to more microservices or serverless development, it's not that hard to, or not frequent that you will just throw away whole your code base and rewrite the whole application from scratch, because it usually takes very short time. What else? Bug fixes. Definitely something with bugs is not a good idea for production. Security. Log4j. We still remember, some of us. Maintainability. Again, something which is not maybe directly affecting your application, but it directly affects, for instance, security and bug fixes. If you don't have good processes in place in libraries or frameworks, this too can take a very long time to be delivered. But I think, at least for me personally, the most important one are new features, because this is what we do. We like to play with new things. We want to discover and make our lives easier with every new release of a technology. And what have all these things in common are probably, or how would you define all these things in common is probably as innovation. This is what I see as an innovation, because innovation drives all of these areas forward. And if you want to innovate or do any of this, you need one important thing, and that's, oh, sorry, I deleted that, oops. Never mind. So, okay, taking a closer look at innovation. What is innovation? In my opinion, you need three things to innovate. First thing, idea. That is probably the hardest thing to come up with. This is why we exactly have Jakarta EE and MicroProfile, because we have more people coming with different ideas and different opinions on the same API that we are creating. And in theory, we are then creating better APIs. Then you need to have this very important part, which is willingness to try. A lot of traditional development frameworks are not willing to give a try to an API which might potentially be removed in a few releases. This is where MicroProfile and Jakarta differ, at least so far. MicroProfile is more willing to break things if we try them and we see that they don't really make sense. In Jakarta, and it happened many times in past AGBs, where some API will live in application server forever. And then maybe, again, very important part, you need a way to deliver. And how you can deliver to you developers, you need to do releases. Nobody is pulling snapshots, I guess, of any libraries on periodic basis. Fix me if I'm wrong. So, the first area, ideas. Hopefully all of you heard about Quarkus if you are in this talk, so you probably know what kind of project it is, and you know what kind of drive Quarkus, or hype, if we want to call it like that, Quarkus has right now. I just want to show you because, like, of course, we engineers that work on this technology, we have a lot of ideas that come from us, and we are delivering them in our software. However, with Quarkus, it is the first time, because I'm still working on Whitefly and JBoss EAP application server, so I can compare. In Quarkus, this extremely great thing happened that we have users that actually come to us with potential new features on periodic basis. I just want to show you, like, this is like some random feature on SmallRye health, or MicroProfile health, potentially in the future. The second point, willingness to try. I don't know what to say about that. I just want to, like, show, because I was reading emails in that time. So you see 902, 906. But it's just like, I was lucky to read emails back then. But you get my point. If the framework doesn't want to try new things, isn't willing to fail, in other words, it might be hard, or maybe even discouraging for you users to come up with ideas, if you know that you are often shut down. And the third point, wait to deliver. So I will just repeat myself, not trying to harm any working group here. I will start with Jakarta EE. The first release that I found, like, on Wikipedia, because I wasn't working in '97, was in 90, that should be 97, but don't mind, I made a mistake. J2E 1.2. Then in 4 years, 1.3. 2 years, 1.4. 3 years. Java EE 5. Another 3 years, Java EE 6. You know where this is going. 4 years to Java EE 7. 4 years to Java EE 8. This was probably the last real new feature release for quite some long time. However, then Oracle donated Java to Eclipse, or Java EE to Eclipse, and we renamed it to Jakarta. So you probably know that there were a few releases in the past few years. Jakarta EE 8 in 2019, Jakarta EE 8, Jakarta EE 9 in 2020, 9.1 in 2021, and now, last month, we released Jakarta EE 10, which came up with new features again. So I will just highlight these two, because these are really, what I'm trying to prove here is how often we deliver new features to users. And unfortunately, if we take Jakarta EE 8, that was just rebranding release and renaming of the artifacts. Jakarta EE 9, just renaming of the packages from Javax to Jakarta. And Jakarta EE 9.1 added minimal required JDK version to 11. However, many of the servers already supported running on both 8 and 11, so nothing changed from functional perspective. So we can just remove that too, and we get, again, 5 years between two feature releases. MicroProfile is slightly better. It was created, one of the reasons that Red Hat, IBM, Tommy Tribe, and Pyara, I think, created MicroProfile was exactly the reason that we were unable to deliver new features to customers through Java EE back then. So MicroProfile 1.0 was created on Java 1 in 2016 as just a subset of Java EE specifications. Then already in 2017, next year, came two releases which both MicroProfile 1.1 added MicroProfile config. In MicroProfile 1.2, we added 4 more specifications, I think. Health metrics, fault tolerance, and JWT, I think, came up with MicroProfile 1.2. So you see that MicroProfile had a really nice potential to become a way for us to deliver. But this continued for a while, and MicroProfile still, to this day, targets 3 releases per year. We were able to do even more in 2019, but we are getting into interesting part. So, only 2 releases in 2020. In 2021, again 2 releases, but in MicroProfile 4.1, there was only one specification upgrade of MicroProfile Health, which came with new features, but only one specification. In MicroProfile 5.0, that was same as Jakarta 9, only rename of packages from JAVAX to Jakarta, so again, not actual features. And we are planning MicroProfile 6 for the next month, where there will be a bunch of specification upgrades. So again, we are more or less, at least from May 21 to November this year, without new features coming through MicroProfile. And now we got to Quarkus. I will just put some delimiters, some releases, and you can probably already guess that these delimiters are not years. These are for last 4 months, and a bunch of releases through like 3, 4 to 6 releases per month. Actually, I did this slide on Tuesday, and there are already 2 more releases since then. Okay, I'm taking also alpha and CRs, but we have users on Quarkus. Maybe it's not totally fair to Jakarta and MicroProfile, but we have users that are continuously consuming this and help us test this. Quarkus 3.0 alpha, release on Tuesday, is actually our first Jakarta release, so you can already try this out. 3.0 should be out in February, I think. So, going back to our original developer focus. Quarkus is great in a way that it gives you the possibility to deliver, but if you don't have a tooling that you can provide developer with to enjoy what they are doing, then they will not consume these kind of releases. So what we have in Quarkus is this marketing term called developer joy, which basically takes this all things into a single thing, in my opinion, which is called dev mode, and all the focus or the possibilities that you will get with it. So dev mode in Quarkus, you probably know, is live coding. So with each request into your application, you are basically able to reload on more complicated basis all your application, rebuild it in a really fast way, and get your updated code. So that means that you don't really compile your application anymore. But I personally find more interesting features in these 4 other things. Dev services is one of the best things that I found in Quarkus. Dev services is a feature which allows you to spin instances of your third-party dependencies in the background when you are in dev mode or running tests. We will get to that. So that basically means that if you want to write an application that connects to Postgres, and you start, you will add an extension in Quarkus. That means optional module, optional functionality. I want to use Postgres. Quarkus sees that, and when you start dev mode, we will spin a Postgres container in the background just for the duration of that dev mode. So you can actually write the code that actually connects, and of course, everything is already configured and connected to that Postgres without any interaction from your side. So in that sense, you are really writing code against a real Postgres database and writing tests, again, different instance of Postgres container, but the same idea. So like testing against H2 database, even if your production is Postgres or similar, that doesn't happen anymore. And this happens with all, we are trying to get there, but there are many extensions that already have this functionality, like for instance Kafka, SmallRye reactive messaging will spin Red Panda container. Every major database, we are now working on open telemetry, that it will spin Jagger, that will be automatically configured. So you get the idea. Everything is pluggable into the whole lifecycle of Quarkus or Quarkus dev mode. So even if you have some idea for some functionality like this, it's free to contribute it if you're interested in that. Dev UI is another great tool which not many people know of. In dev mode, you have a really simplistic UI which has a bunch of panels which correspond to your extensions in your application. And each extension is free to provide whatever information they need in the dev UI. For instance, I will show you later, Arc, our CDI container, will provide you with all the beans that it found, with all the beans that it removed, all the fired events, all interceptors, etc. And Last but not least, continuous testing is the continuous run of your tests in the background in your dev mode, which is actually retriggering with some logic. Well, it tries to do its best to find only the tests which are relevant to the changes that you are making. When you save the file, it will try to retrigger that test, but you can also retrigger everything manually if you want. Okay, so then when I first found dev mode, and I can tell you that I haven't written a single whitefly application since then. This is usually my feelings when I start this, because just everything works out of the box. And my day-to-day when I'm writing a Quarkus application basically means I start the dev mode in the morning, and I don't stop it until I'm finished. Of course, some edge cases may happen. Sometimes you need to restart for some configuration, for instance. If you want to change the HTTP port on which you are exposing your HTTP server, of course, for that you need to restart JVM. But like in most cases, you don't. And this brings us to the SmallRye. How many of you know what SmallRye is? Perfect, so I don't need to speak about it. So you probably know that it's our MicroProfile implementation, or implementations of MicroProfile, individual libraries. But maybe you don't know that except for Red Hat products like Quarkus, whitefly, and EAP, also in OpenLiberty, also OpenLiberty and Tommy, for instance, use them. Some of the specifications they implement themselves, but it's becoming more and more regular to reuse SmallRye implementations as the driving implementations of MicroProfile specs. And please, if you have any questions, just ask as I'm going. You don't need to wait for anything. So we can split the SmallRye libraries into 3 areas. MicroProfile implementations, this is one-to-one mapping to MicroProfile. Then MicroProfile standalone implementations, again, one-to-one mapping to standalone implementations in MicroProfile. SmallRye Mutiny is implementing reactive streams operators, if you didn't know. There is one more standalone MicroProfile specification called long-running actions, LRA, and that, for reasons, is living in Narayana project in Red Hat. But it's still, I'm trying to get it into SmallRye. And then we have a bunch of standalone projects in SmallRye, which some of them, as SmallRye OpenTelemetry, are used as a base for MicroProfile specification right now. So soon, OpenTelemetry will be moved into the 3rd category. Gendex, if you don't know, is an annotation scanning library, which was just recently moved to SmallRye. And we have a bunch more. I don't want to dive into all of them, but I will just pick up or highlight the converters, which is also one potential new MicroProfile specification, which is in the program plan for the next year on MicroProfile side, and SmallRye Stork, which is service discovery and load balancing library. So if you are looking for this kind of functionality, it is fully integrated now in Quarkus. Okay, so this talk is about innovating MicroProfile with what we are doing in SmallRye, basically. Here I am just listing a bunch of features which I know that are not yet in the MicroProfile specifications. Just for reference, I don't want to go through each of that. But what is the idea that I'm trying to present here is basically in what we are doing in SmallRye is often not going unnoticed even in broader communities. So we often get feature request in MicroProfile. Like for instance, 2 weeks ago, oops, I'm always forgetting the right button. Exactly question about map support popped up on MicroProfile Google group. Somebody from Red Hat just wrote, we have it in SmallRye already. Because you need to understand that you as developers often come to the same problems and propose the same features. So, as it happened before, and SmallRye config or MicroProfile config is a prime example of that, we often just take the API that we already are using in SmallRye for often years, but at least months, and we just like copy-paste it into MicroProfile because people already know that it's battle tested, it was in use, it is used in many productions, so there is usually little room to argue on the MicroProfile side that this is the right way to go. So this happened many times that we just took our API from SmallRye project and just changed the package to org MicroProfile. I don't want to go through all of them, but all of this is available, and I will show you where on the internet. I don't remember all of this. I remember this because health is my specification. So you see that we are trying, like every time that we have some idea from the community, we will just give it a shot. And we will see if it works or it doesn't. For instance, when we were moving startup probe from SmallRye Health to MicroProfile Health in MicroProfile 4.1, we needed to rename it because we named it Startness in Quarkus because we already have startup annotation in Quarkus. So that was our internal reason. So we needed to break our users because in the specification, other companies argued that it needs to be named startup, but in Quarkus it didn't matter. People just updated their applications when we updated, and I had not a single complaint that it's now startup and it was Startness in the previous release. So what I'm just trying to say, of course, I am not maintaining application which needs to be running forever, but think twice whether you are after that long, year-long stability of your project, which you don't want to touch for years, or you are able to really do some quick changes when you are bumping Quarkus version just to redeploy and keep with the current technologies, which opens a lot of doors for you. What? There are others in different projects. Sometimes it's not that we are actively trying to push new features to SmallRye, but you need to understand that it's way easier for us if we are releasing new APIs through our own libraries, which we can release at any point of time. We have Quarkus as a way to deliver. So from that idea on GitHub, I can release SmallRye library at the same day, and it takes at most 2 weeks to get it into Quarkus version. At most. If you would be lucky to release new SmallRye component exactly after the last release of Quarkus. So you see that in this sense, and it happened to me many times that I even released something and people found some issue, so I did the same cycle again. In a week, you have a fixed version of my library. I have the feedback. I have the best library that I can possibly produce. Okay. I have still 10 minutes, so I wanted to show you just really quickly where to find this information, because I will not have a possibility in 30 minutes to dive into how this is done. Just I want to show you, I showed you fish, I can give you fish, but it's better if I teach you how to catch it yourself, right? So, Quarkus.io is your first point of reference. If you want to learn any functionality that is in Quarkus, learn that guide. Official documentation for everything that you will find in Quarkus. In Quarkus, I can show you that. I will just create a new project. So, let's call it EclipseCon, whatever. Quark is just my wrapper about Quarkus CLI. So if you want to create a new application on Quarkus, you have several ways. One of them is Quarkus CLI, which you can find in that guide, to that matter, if I find CLI. Or Quarkus CLI, I don't remember. Let me just do Quarkus CLI. Sometimes I don't remember. Yeah, so you have a bunch, but you see that this is like one of the guides, just I don't remember how it's called. So you have a bunch of ways how to install this. This will always keep pulling the latest release version of Quarkus. So in that sense, every time you are doing with it, something with it, you will get the latest. So I prefer this way. Also, this Quarkus CLI comes with a bunch of built-in capabilities to manage your project. So if I open this project in presentation mode, You know how Quarkus works. You know that all the extensions are basically only Maven modules started with Quarkus-something in the package io.quarkus. So you see that we basically have only Arc, which is the CDI implementation, which is more or less required for 99.9 Quarkus applications. And then we have our REST server, which is REST is reactive. With this Quarkus CLI, if you just do Quarkus extension, it will just list all the extensions that it can find. Arc is not listed here because it's kind of essential. You can do just like extensions can be shortened to ext. If I add -i flag, is this big enough for everybody? That means installable, or give me installable extensions, which I can install into my application. So you see you have a bunch of them that you can try to look for. There is also this Quarkus extension category, maybe? No. Let's try to categories. So with this is just some grouping of individual extensions, which you can also pass with -- full. This is just like showing you if you are looking for something and you don't know what you are looking for. So, for instance, here I can find, I don't know, if I would like to connect to Kafka, for instance, I can find it here with, oh my God. Okay, somehow you can list, yeah, here it is. I don't need to remember things. This is nice. They know that I don't remember anything. If I do categorying messaging, no, maybe messaging, because I need to do this one. Yes, it will list you all the extensions inside that category, and then you can find Kafka in several extensions here if you are looking for something. The next step, if you already know which extensions you are looking for, is this quarkus.io/guides. Here I can search for Kafka, for instance, but do I want to do Kafka? No, I don't want to do Kafka in 8 minutes. But if you open any of these guides, I will just show this as an example, and I will show you database to show you the services. You will most likely get a guide which is from 15 to 20 minutes, creating a simple application from scratch, showing you the basic usage of that API that you are going to use, and basically giving you in 15 minutes a really great idea how to start with the technology. Typically, and we are working on that, we are rewriting most of the guides to be split into this really 15-minute quick start, and then you can, in the end, click for a full reference guide, which is quite longer, you see here, which will give you all the information about that technology. So by the 15 minutes, you should already have an idea whether you want to use it or not, and you can continue if you want to go with it. SmallRye is at smallrye.io, where you can list all the projects. If you typically you will know which extension is Quarkus extension. I grep SmallRye. If you are adding a SmallRye extension, typically there is one-to-one mapping to SmallRye project, so you can find the documentation either in the GitHub directly or on the smallrye.io. We have also this, I think that you cannot see it, but it's documentation link on the top where you can find, for instance, the information about that extended features which are not yet in the specifications. So you can find some more information about that here too. Okay, I have really 5 minutes, but I want to show you that services if you don't know what that is. So I will just really quickly add, no, I will start Quarkus Dev. This is my first step, I forgot. Then I will find a guide on Panache. Do you know, everyone knows what Panache is? Panache is a really nice new API from Hibernate team, which they are unable to push into JPA, which provides you with this active record pattern, for instance, also with repository pattern. So definitely give it a try. So I will search for Panache. I will find Panache. Because I don't remember which extensions I need to include, I can just copy-paste them to my application. So I will just add the dependencies on extensions into my application, and you already can see some magic happening in this terminal. And you can't because you don't see it, but what happened, well, I will stop that mode just to show you. PPS is Podman PS. That's my Docker runtime. So you can see I'm not running anything. Maybe I can just put it into watch, so we will see in every minute. If I now start Quarkus dev, because I added extension on Postgres, Quarkus sees that I want to use probably Postgres, and what happens in the background, Postgres database is started for me, and my Quarkus application is already connected to the database. So I can go into my application. Please ask questions while I'm typing, because if I want to finish something, I won't have time for questions at the end. I will do Avenger. This class in Panache, this is everything in that guide. I just don't have time to find it there. Needs to extend Panache entity. Sorry, I forgot to reload my POM. Okay, Panache entity. Here I can, and it's actually recommended to do public fields, because if you have private field with public getter and setter, it's just typing. Civil name, and let's do Boolean snapped. I just created a new entity, and if I just reload my application, sorry, let's put this here. Reloading in Quarkus is only done when you will make a request into the application, because typically you are doing more stuff when you are implementing some features, so you should have seen that it was reloaded here. I was looking at you. But now, if I check my, what I can do, let's keep watch there. Oh, where is the port? Come on, where is the port? I need to find my port on which I have my database. I can paste that into the PSQL. Now, one more thing I always forget. I need to put my Postgres properties. Just please, I'm doing this just because I want to have my password, which I always forgot, which is the default. In Quarkus, we have this notion of config profiles. You have Quarkus running either in dev mode or in production mode, which means Java-jar or native or test mode. This is also a feature which is now included in MicroProfile config, which was originally created in SmallRye config, just by the way. And you can see that I'm specifying my JDBC connection only for that prod profile. This is intentionally because in dev it is not specified, and this means that Quarkus will start that dev service Postgres and it's already connected to it. So now I just need to restart, because it needs to start my Postgres with my password now, which is already parsed from my configuration. And that will be probably everything that I will be able to show. And of course, the new port here, PSQL. I just want to show you that the entity is created there, hopefully. Pass. Yay. So, what is it? DT plus? No. No? What is it? Slash DT plus? What? Oh my God. And nobody will tell me. Okay, reload my application. Hopefully that will be enough. PSQL, where I'm typing, PSQL, plus, DT plus, Avenger is there. I wanted to show you more, but I don't have time. Please check REST data Panache. I'm really sorry, in 35 minutes I cannot show you more. I would like to type more, and probably for the next version of this talk I will do less slides. Thank you for your attention. I don't want to keep you more than required. Please have a safe drive home. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, I will be here for another 20 to 30 minutes, so please ask. Thank you.